Hello there and welcome to the composermail tutorial. We're just going to take you through the basics of composermail now, from logging in to using the system. So if you're using the system, you'd go to www.composermail.com, and then in the top right hand corner you see the login text. Just select that and you'll come to the login page. Now you'll have been provided with your username and password, and you simply type these in here. And if everything's correct, click login and you'll have access to the system. Now what we've tried to do here is make things as simple as possible for people to use the system. So we've split up the four main tasks when you're creating and sending out a newsletter into the four tabs along the top. These are manage the users, which will allow you to add users to the system to send emails to. Manage the stories, which will allow you to create stories to be entered into the newsletter. Manage campaigns, which will allow you to set the subject field of the newsletter you're sending out and decide on how many stories are going to be in the newsletter and in which order they're going to appear. And finally then you'll be able to preview the newsletter, send a test to yourself to make sure everything's correct, and send it out to your recipient list either immediately or at a time in the future. So first of all, we're going to look at managing users. And there's three ways to add users to the system. The first way we're going to look at is adding users individually. So the benefit of this is that when the pop-up window appears, anyone in your company could enter a customer into the system, whether they're on reception or doing sales or doing customer support calls. When someone calls in, they can check the system to see if they're in here, and if they're not, they can go ahead and add them. So I'm just going to make up someone here and add some details. The key field is the email field. The other information is important. It's good to collect this, but the key field is the email field. So now they've entered their details, I just click on the save, and we'll see that save's been successful, and now Joe has been added to the database. Another way to add users is to download a spreadsheet. So we can save this file to our downloads folder, and if we look here now, you'll see that we've loaded the subscribers, and if I double click here, you'll see that Joe Blogs is already there. I can also add in another user. I'm just going to make up the email address here. If we close this down, it'll ask us to save the subscribers. It'll ask us to save it as a .csv file, which we'll agree to, and then in the system we can then edit, we can then upload the users. So we just browse for that file which we just downloaded, subscribers, and upload that, and you'll see that now we have two names there, the other one that I entered in the spreadsheet. And another way to add a user is to generate a link for your website. So if we just select these buttons, you'll see that if we right click and load this in a new tab, you'll see that if you want to link your website to composermail database, you can easily do that from that tab. Now you'll see here it's in the composermail branding, but this would actually be the branding for the company and the color scheme. So again, I can add someone this way, and the key field is again the email address. So I click subscribe, I get some feedback here, save successful, and I can then check the database again, clicking on manage users, you'll see now that the third person there, Mary, has also been added to the database. So there's three ways that you can add people so that you can send them out newsletters. So the next thing we're going to look at is creating and managing a story. So if we click on manage stories, we'll see that there's already a story created here which has some unusual characters in it, just to test that they all work fine. And creating a story is as simple as just clicking on the add story, and the story title. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to borrow from the BBC website. We're going to just take a story from there. If we select the BBC News website, we'll see Twitter tweets are 40% babble. And we're just going to copy this story into create a story that we're making here. What I can do is I can save this image locally. So if we save this in the downloads folder, so I can easily find this again. So now if I browse here, it's just saving that image. So I can select the Twitter image, open that, and I can also even link the story. If I copy in the text, the URL from the website, this will actually link directly to that story. Obviously, if this was your own website, you'd be linking it to your website. We'll just save the changes here, and that's basically a story created, ready to be used in a campaign. So that's adding a story, and we can of course go back and edit that information at a later date, or reuse the story. So now that we've created a story, we're going to decide, well, how many stories are we going to have in this newsletter, what's the subject of the newsletter going to be, and in which order the story is going to appear. And we do that by selecting manage campaigns. You'll see here, this is where the subject field will appear, and it currently says what's a good name for a newsletter. I'm just going to change that to this is where the subject appears. We're going to change it to 2 stories here. I'm going to save those changes, and then we're going to select the stories in the next window. So we're going to say Twitter tweets at the top, and the next story is going to be, this is the test story, and we're going to save those changes, and that's those saved. So now we have created the subject field, and that there's 2 stories in this newsletter and the order that they appear in. So now we're actually going to look at a preview of the newsletter, and we do that by clicking on the sending options. And you'll see here if we click preview newsletter, you can actually preview what this newsletter is going to look like. You can see again this is branded for composermail, but this would be your company's branding in there. You can see the image has appeared, the title. Again, we would work on the design so that you're happy with it. If we scroll down, we see other images, disclaimers, links, and if we click on the Twitter story, we'll see that it brings us directly through to that section of the website once it loads here. So that's the preview. We can also send a test to ourselves if you enter your email address here, or perhaps the email of your marketing manager, your sales manager, or the owner manager of the company. You can send them the newsletter or to yourself so that they can double check things before they get sent out to everyone. And then if you click here now, that will send it to everyone in your user list, or you could decide to send it later, which will allow you to send it at any time, the day or night in the future, and you can also set it up to repeat send at later dates. So that's basically everything in the introduction to composermail. I hope you found that useful. If you need any more information, don't hesitate to contact us through the website. Thank you.